All right, so the first thing we're going to do is take that note card. If you're absent, I've linked it right here on the slide where it says link. You're going to flip it over. And on the back, we're going to put our 6-1 and 6-2 information first. So we're actually going to start that together. So on the back of it, flip it over, and we're going to go back a little ways where we started this chapter. So we're dealing with polygons. So the first thing we did is we talked about their names. If you don't need these, don't put them on there. I don't think I'm going to put the triangle on there because that would be silly. But we're going to go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you put this in your notes, but we'll get it all on a note card first. All right. So we're going to throw this on the back where we know their names. The 4-sided one, I'm going to have you, actually my 4 looked a little silly. I'm going to have you star that because that's what most of this chapter is about. All right? It's almost the whole chapter is about different kinds of quadrilaterals. The other side of your note card has all of that stuff on there. If you fill it in, you don't have to memorize it. You just have to use it. But you might be working with a pentagon, 5 sides, right? Do you guys remember the 6-sided? Hexagon, thank you. Hexagon, it's kind of, you might want to underline that X. That's a good way to remember it. But you're writing it down anyway, so it doesn't particularly matter. Are you going to write it down? On the back of the green sheet. Heptagon is a 7-sided. And we've written this down, so I'm going to do it fast and then just let you write. Octagon, nonagon, hendecagon. You won't see that much. Hendecagon. And lastly, a dodecagon. So I wrote those fast. I'm going to give you a little bit of time here. I'll pause the video. And I skipped 10, which is the, let's sneak it in here, the decagon. All right. Then what I think you should do is kind of block that off. All right. I don't know how you want to do it. But we also had our formulas for angles. So let's write angle formulas. All right. And remember for these, our N stands for the number of sides or the number of angles, but I think it's easier to count up the sides, so we're going to go like that. So all our formulas deal with how many sides the polygon has. If it's an octagon and it is 8, we have 4 of them right now. All right, so we have 2 of them for the sum. So I'm going to have you write sum of, and then sum of. And by sum, you remember that means we're adding up all those angles. All right, so go ahead and do that. We have 2 for the sums, what angles add up to. And then we have 2 for what each angle is. So we're going to put each. Sometimes they'll say 1 angle. Sometimes they'll say an angle, but you're working with a singular angle in or outside of the polygon. So, and we're going to have 2 of those. So we're going to write that twice as well. Each, 1, or an, whatever they say. All right. The reason we have 4 of them is because, go up next to your angle formulas. Let's just draw a nice regular 6-sided figure. What would that be called? It's a hexagon. What does the word regular mean? All the sides and all the angles are the same, correct? So on this one, my n would equal 6 because it's a hexagon. The reason we have 2 of them is because we have interior angles. So this is an interior, 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 interior. But at each interior, if we stretch this out, we have an exterior. So we kind of travel around here, just extend these. For each interior, there is an exterior right next to it. I've got that one. Okay? So on that one, we have 6 interior and 6 exterior. Am I going too fast? Should I just slow down a little bit? I'll slow down a little bit, let you draw that out. Again, if n was 8, we'd have 8 interior, 8 exterior. So our first formula is for the sum of the interior angles. So we're inside and we're adding them all up. Do you guys remember from 6.1 what we did? To find what they all add up to in there, we would take the number of sides. What would we subtract? 2. Yeah, it had to do with if I chop this up into triangles by doing consecutive diagonals like this, there would be 4 of them in there. So we do n minus 2 times 180. So if ever it asks you for the sum of the interior, that's what you'll use. Easier was, and if you didn't take your notes on the snow day, you didn't practice the exterior, so you should. I'm sending out, by the way, my missing homework emails today at 2:30, and they're going to go back to the algebra review through 6.3, which I actually, 6.2, which I need to collect. If you didn't turn in the yellow one, do it today at some point. Not right now, because I'm recording. The exterior one was easy. When I add up all of these exteriors, no matter how many sides there are, it's 360 degrees, so you can't really get that wrong. If it says, what's the sum of the exterior angles of a 14-gon? 360. Of a decagon? 360. Super easy, right? Each one of them, though. So, for example, on this one, if I wanted to know what each of these exterior were, well, if they add up to 360, and there's 6 of them, I would just divide by 6. So each one of these is 60 degrees in there. Fairly straightforward, too. The exterior was easy to work with. Oh, sorry. Let's erase that for a second. I'm going to do each one of an interior first. So one interior, let's go and fill in that other one, though. Each one of an exterior. Okay, equals. It's the exterior one that we take 360, because that's what they all add up to, and we divide it by how many we have. So go ahead and do that. For the interior, it's still the same concept. What do they all add up to? And divide by how many? So for one interior, I do n minus 2 times 180, because that's what they'd all add up to. So for this one, I do 6 minus 2 times 180 on my calculator, and it equals. But then I have to divide it up amongst those 6 angles. So we divide it by n. All right? And then I think you should write in here, just in case, maybe put a little, this is if regular. And then Vince already said what that means. If it's regular, remember, all of the angles are what? The same. Yeah, so if regular, you can put that in parentheses if you think you forget it. Regular means all of the angles and sides are the same. You might want to kind of do a little blurb. Those are our formulas, but we also, and it might be helpful for you to remember, that once you have either an exterior or an interior, you can get the other, because what do these two make together? A line, right? 180, I heard somebody say. So every exterior plus an interior has to add up to 180 degrees. So there's kind of what, that's kind of a lot for the first section. That's why we spent 2 days on it. So that's on the back of your note card. You're allowed to use that. Do you need a little more time? Yes? All right. So I'll let you get that down nice and neat. And then we're going to go fill in what we did yesterday. And then we're going to use it to make it a kind of like a, not a shortcut, but we're going to modify those 6 pages of notes down to very little. If you are listening, so that's good. Can I turn the page? All right. So the next thing you're going to do is flip it over. And we have a flow chart here that you're going to fill in. And so if you fill it in right, by the time we get to the test, your task is going to be like, how do I interpret it? But for now, we're just going to fill it in. Everything on this page is about the quadrilateral. So everything on this page has 4 sides. The trapezoid does, the isosceles, the rectangle, the rhombus, our parallelogram. Those all have 4 sides. They all have 4 angles. And everything up here, because they have 4 angles, go ahead on the top and write the angle sum would be n minus 2 times 180. But for a quadrilateral, it's always 360. So all of these, the angles add up to 360 degrees. All right. So we're going to take this route, because this is what we did yesterday, and then we're going to use it today as well. All right. So yesterday we said that by definition, a parallelogram has opposite sides parallel. I'm not going to mark that, it's too tiny. But our first thing is opposite sides. And I'm going to use the symbol for parallel. There's a little key down on the bottom for symbols, correct? Our symbol for parallel is this. All right, so if you know something's a parallelogram, automatically opposite sides are parallel. Okay? Yesterday we had something else about the opposite sides though as well. It was about their lengths. So do you remember yesterday what we said about the opposite sides, like their lengths? They're what? Congruent. Yeah. Opposite sides. Not only are they running parallel, but if this is 7, so is this. I'm going to erase that though so it doesn't make a mess. They are congruent. Exactly. So you set them equal if needed. That's our information about the sides. We had 2 pieces of information about the angles as well. One was about the opposite angles, right? These ones across from each other. Were they equal or did they add up to 180? The ones across from each other. Equal. Yep. So opposite. And I'm going to use the symbol for angles. Angles are also congruent. So the ones across from each other, we set them equal. Or if we know one, we automatically know the other. If this dot right here is 40, the one across from it is also 40. That was easy. Do you remember what we said yesterday about the consecutive, or if you don't like that word, the neighboring angles, the ones that if you walked around, you go from one to the other, like the dot and the X and the X and the dot. Do you remember what those do? Consecutive. Yeah, angles. And I'm not going to say supplementary because there's a lot of info on here. I'm just going to put plus so you know they add to 180. All right, so if they are neighbors or right next door, they add up to 180, they're supplementary. I'll pause a little bit since we're all writing it down. We're going to get a good note card for this chapter is kind of crucial because there's a lot going on. All right, the next one, it was about the diagonals. So go ahead and write diagonals. And if you're watching this video, just pause it at any time if I'm writing too fast. I'm just keeping up with the front row here. Do you remember what we said these you don't draw them in right now, but do you remember what we said these diagonals do from yesterday? They're not the same. They bisect, yeah. Diagonals bisect each other. Again, if you don't like that word, right, cut each in half or something like that. All right. And that was it. All right, so I got task 1 done here. Our note card is up to snuff to date. Does that make sense? Next thing, I'm hoping I'm not going too fast. I told you in your notes to go to page 11. We're going to kind of skip over a lot of the notes and we're going to kind of just talk about what the goal of this section is because it's actually really similar to yesterday. The goal of this chapter is to decide if we're not going to write proofs. I told you we were done with proofs, remember? I'm going to honor that. We won't write any proofs. But it'll ask you, is there enough information for this to be a parallelogram? Or it'll say, what's the value of X that would make it a parallelogram? And there's 6 things you have to look for. And you might say, well, on our note card, we only wrote 5. Right? We have to add 1 more bullet below it for just a second. But if you're asked, hey, is this enough information for you to say this is a parallelogram? You'll say yes. Because what's happening? Opposite sides are parallel. Okay, so both pairs are marked. You get to stop and say, yep, it's a parallelogram. If you have a figure where these are marked with either dashes, let's go add some numbers, or with numbers. And you're like, hey, the opposite sides are are congruent. So go ahead and underline that. That's enough. You get to say, yep, I've got a parallelogram. So what you're looking for is, of those 5 things we did yesterday, you're seeing if they're marked. So on this one, it's the angles, correct? And it's the consecutive ones. Agreed? Are they adding up to 180? Yes. So you would stop and say, yep, I've got supplementary consecutive angles. Maybe they didn't have that, and you don't even have the numbers. Like on this next instance, I just did 3 pages of notes. Are you with me? So if you know that the opposite angles are congruent, both pairs, they only mark one pair, so you might want to circle these words both. All right, you need to have both. All right, so if they only mark one, you're going to say, nope, not enough. All right, but if both pairs of angles are marked, you're going to say, yep, I have a parallelogram. Our fifth one is about the diagonals. If you're looking at the diagonals and you either see numbers or dashes, does this mean it got cut in half with the 2 dashes? Yes. Does this mean the other one got cut in half with the single dashes? Yes. If both of them, okay, so that's what it means with each other. If both are marked with numbers or dashes, it's a yes. All right? The only one that we don't have, it's basically yesterday in reverse. That's why I think I can modify it quite a bit. Yesterday was, if it's a parallelogram, then the opposite sides are the same. Today is, if the opposite sides are the same, then it's a parallelogram. Hey, do you remember the vocabulary that goes with swapping the if and the then? Remember that? What's that called? The converse. Yeah, today is basically the converse of yesterday. So instead of walking forward, we're walking backward. If you walk forward, you should be able to walk backward. Right? Just a little bit more awkward. So this is the only one I think I need to just add to that note card. If you can get just one pair of opposite sides to be both, what do these little arrows mean? Parallel. And what do these little dashes mean? Congruent. So if they are both parallel and both congruent, then you can say it's a parallelogram. That's my notes. All right, we'll go practice in just a second. But let's go back to that note card. And let's go right under here. Okay, let's bracket these off. Write the word if, because this is actually what 6.3 is. 6.2 was if it's a parallelogram, this property, this property, this property, this property, this property. Today's is if you can get these properties, then it's a parallelogram. So I'm going to just do that. I think I just covered all of the notes. The only thing I want you to add down here is one more little bullet. If one pair of sides, so either the left and the right or the top and the bottom. Oops, which means I should put opposite. And I put a little op up there. If one pair opposite sides, what does this symbol mean? Those 2 lines. Parallel. And what does this symbol mean? Congruent. Yeah, then we can also, you might say that's super confusing. It's not. We're actually going to do the homework for 6.3 together. I'm going to collect it, so if you don't do it, I won't give you any points. But my focus today isn't really 6.3 because I think it's super easy. So I'm going to pass this worksheet out. We'll do as many as I think based on how you're responding. Does that make sense? So I might do 5, I might do 10, I might do all the odds. We're just going to let you guys go with the flow. So put your name on it. I'll collect it as soon as we're done. All right? And then I'll tell you what your actual assignment is for today. I just think 6.3 is not going to cause you any problems. What? What was that? And congruent. They're one pair. All right. So we're going to do the first 3 on this worksheet for sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that my fault or yours? I'm paying you back for tricking me with your feet and everything. All right. So I'm going to focus first on these first 3. We'll do all of them. Okay? There are, I think, 2 or 3 of these on your test. How many? 2 or 3. There were 2 points each. Because the explain part's important, otherwise it's a 50-50 guess. Because the answer is yes or no. All right? Because when it says, can it be proved, you're going to write either yes or no. But if you don't know what you're doing and you guess right, I don't want to give you full credit. So this says, using the information, can it be proven that this is a parallelogram? So you're going to look at what the markings are on. These are on the sides, correct? We have one that says, if opposite sides are congruent, are both pairs opposite sides congruent? Yes, correct? So we'll say yes. But maybe Gavin's just guessing because he wasn't even here today and didn't watch the notes. He's like, I'm going to guess yes. So you have to say what of those 6 things we just talked about we have off that note card. We don't have anything about the angles or the diagonals, but we'll say because opposite sides, you can just write off. And what's true about the opposite sides on this one? They are what? Congruent. Okay? Done. It's not very hard, is it? All right, so and you're shaking your head no. Number 2, is that the sides, the angles, or the diagonals? Diagonals, right? The diagonals have to bisect each other. Is that what those markings are showing? No. It's showing only one of them got cut in half, correct? So you're going to say no. But again, you have to tell me what it is about the markings that's the no. Are you doing it with me? Yes? No? All right, what is it about it? What are you going to say? No, because what? Both aren't marked. Yes. All right, no, and then we'll do because. Both, I'll just use that, diags, I'm just going to abbreviate it a little bit, must get bisected. Now, if I wanted to put one on the quiz or test where this would be a yes, good, you're all watching because I really shortened those notes. I took 6 pages down to a half a page. If I wanted this to be a yes, what would I have to do on this unmarked diagonal right here? Mark it. Right. I'd have to go like that. Would that be enough? No. Okay, I can do that there. Then it's a yes. You go answer number 3. Is there enough information, which means is one of those 6 bulleted things on our note card or one of the 6 things on the bottom of page 11 marked? If yes, write yes and tell me which one. If no, write no and tell me why not. Okay? And again, kind of to sort it out so you're not looking at all 6, look at the stuff about sides, look at the stuff about diagonals, look at the stuff about what for this one? Angles. There's 2 things about angles. Did this meet one of the angle criteria? Yes, awesome. But that could be a 50-50 yes, or it will be because. Which one did it meet? Opposite. And it's both pairs of opposite angles. But we can write yes, opposite angles. And what is it about them? Congruent. All right, what do you think? I think there's enough notes, right? So we're going to go practice a couple of them. They're kind of like yesterday, but in reverse. Yesterday, we had kind of these same pictures, but it says this is a parallelogram. Find the values of the variables. Now it's saying find the value of the variable, right, to make it a parallelogram. So you're just going to reverse your thought process. Is this stuff on the sides, the angles, or the diagonals? Diagonals. Okay, according to our diagonal stuff, what must the diagonals do for it to be a parallelogram? Bisect, correct? This one is marked as being bisected, so I don't need to do anything about that. I need to find the value of x that would prove that this is also bisected. So what am I going to do with these 2 pieces of algebra? Set them equal. It's kind of just like yesterday, except the if and the then are swapped. Yesterday, again, it said, if this is a parallelogram, find x. Now it's find x, so that would have to be a parallelogram. I'm not going to do the algebra in here. Let's go to number 6. Okay? Is that stuff on the angles, the sides, or the diagonals? Angles. There's 2 things about angles. Pick the easier one. Okay? So take a look. You could say that the consecutive have to add up to what? 180. And you could pick those 2 or those 2 or those 2. And you could, and it'd be true, but that's not what I do. Because what else does it say about the angles? Opposite. Why would I pick to set the opposite ones equal? Same variable. There we go. You're listening. So I would just say 3x equals 4x minus 21. Solve for x. And I do the same with the ones on the y. How are we doing? Okay. We're just going to do a few. I just want to make sure we have this section down, but I don't think you need 6 pages of notes. and a worksheet with 20 problems. I think this section's pretty straightforward. All right, let's go to another one. Let's go to number 8. Okay? Number 8 is the information given, those little runners, and the algebra stuff, side stuff, angle stuff, or diagonal stuff. Side stuff, but it's only on one pair of sides. Correct? Look at the 6th thing you wrote. What does one pair of opposite sides have to be? Both what? Parallel. Are they? And congruent. Are they? For one value of x, they will be. And that's what you have to find, right? So what do you think you're going to do with these 2 pieces of algebra right here? Set them equal. What do you think? Let's do that. So we'd say, well, the parallel we have, but we need that one pair to be both parallel and congruent. Let's solve one of them. Again, when the variable's on both sides, just in case, I think we picked up in this class, I don't know that we had any algebra issues. Like any. I think all of you have been doing your algebra right. But, just in case. So I would do 3x minus 4, right? Then I'd add 4 to both sides. And I'm talking you through it because I'm making a video. Usually I know I call on you guys, but what would be the last thing I do here? Divide by what? 3, right? Does that go in nicely? No, so just leave it as 5/3 and you're done. Fractions are okay. Usually we get nice whole numbers, but that's all right. All right, let's flip the page. And let's go talk about, let's go do a more complicated one maybe, since I think, all right, I want you guys on your own to go do number 13. So there's lots of variables. I'm going to pause the video. Go do number 13 and then I'll have you check it. So go ahead and check yours. I have 3 variables. So my answers are going to be A equals, I'm going to have to find K, I'm going to have to find H, but I can do them in any order I want to. I like the side property the best because it's just so easy. Opposite sides are congruent. So my A would have to be 23 minus 15. My A is 8. How many of you had that one correct? Almost all. When I'm in here at the angles, it just depends. I have 2 angle properties. The ones across from each other are equal. Would I set 4h equal to k? It's not wrong, but it doesn't give me an answer. Why? There's 2 variables, right? So I'm not going to work there. I actually could say that these 2 add up to 180. Why am I not going to choose that either? If I had to, I would, and I'd do the substitution that we did yesterday. But what could I do with just the h's or just the k's? Add up these 2, correct? What is 4 h's plus 2 more h's? Because that has to equal 180. What's 4 h's plus 2 h's? 6 of them, right? So those 6 h's have to add up to 180. So I'm going to get my h next. You might have done it differently, but I think this is the easiest route. How many of you got h to be 30? A lot. All right, now once you have h being 30, correct? You could put it there, or you could put it down here. By the way, look how nice that looks. This would be 120, this would be 60. That looks really good, correct? If this is 120, what's the one across from it? 120. All right? So we're going to go, I'm going to pick on, 3 people are going to volunteer here, just to make it faster. We're going to go look at number 15. It'll be the last one we do in 6-3, and then we'll just turn this in and we're done with 6-3. All right? We need to find these 3. I need somebody who doesn't always answer, so not a Vince, not a Gavin. All right? I need somebody to tell me, and Colin F., I had deal with most of yesterday, so you don't either. Somebody else tell me which variable you would like to find first and how. I need a volunteer. I gotta go back because I'll sue. We don't know how to do it. Which one do you want to find? C. Okay. We've got somebody who said, those of you watching the video, that they want to find C. They could, because they have the one across from it. What's the one across from it? 102. Perfect. How do we undo division by 2? What's the opposite of dividing by 2? Multiplying by 2. Yep, so we'll just multiply both sides by 2 here. and we get C is equal to 204. I'll take it. 204 divided by 2 is 102, C is done. All right, and I think, Toby, you said that, correct? So don't answer the next one. She got us C being 204. I need another volunteer for how I'm going to find either F or E. You're up. F. How do you want to find F, Steve? Yeah, the sides are nice. So 8 equals, if you didn't hear him, he said 8 equals F minus 3. So Steve-O, what's F? 11. Okay, boom. Somebody, not Steve-O, not Gavin, not Ella, not Vincent, is going to tell me how I'm going to get E. They're not calling me. I need somebody or we got to go back and I'm not calling them. Nobody? Not you either, you just answered. Somebody else. How am I going to get E? Not calling them. Somebody else. Dino, go ahead.
So, 102 plus 60 is going to equal 100.
Perfect. Consecutive or supplementary. So let's go do that. 102 plus 6E equals 180. Go ahead, Dino, and tell me how to solve that real quick.
180 minus 102 is 78.
Yeah, perfect.
Then 60 equals 78. So then you just need to
Is it 13?
And then I guess
13, yeah. Okay, perfect. That's done. Okay, I'm not going to turn off the video yet because I'm going to, so go ahead and pass that up. 6-3 is over. Thank you, Arud. We could have done 6 pages of notes and the whole worksheet, but do you need it on that section? I hope not. I hope it doesn't bite me in the butt. So we're going to turn in 6-3. You did it great. But your actual assignment, go ahead and open your Chromebook. Keep that note card out, that green note card, and I'm going to give you 3 options for what you're going to do. All right? Your 3 options, I guess I didn't okay this with Miss Monroe. One of them has you involved. Are you okay with it? Okay. Sorry. I forgot. Well, yeah, if you have the yellow, I'll take it. A lot of you gave it to me yesterday. But if you have this one from yesterday. All right, so go to your Chromebook. Go ahead and open Schoology. And our actual assignment for today, which some of you, there's 4 questions in each of 2 quizzes in Schoology. So let me back up a little bit here. My computer works faster than your Chromebooks. So we're going to go to our course. We're going to ignore today's slide. And we're going to go down here to chapter 6. And we're going to go to week 1 because we're on the 6th. We just did 6-3, so you're going to click on that. And your actual homework is a 4-problem quiz on the first 2 sections because they're far more important than today's. You have to get 90% or better for it to go in my grade book. What percent? If you get it the first time, you'll be done here in about 10 minutes. If you have to retake, I have it set for 4 times you can retake it. If by, it wouldn't be Tuesday. Yeah, I will probably put you in elk time if you don't have both of those at 90 by either Tuesday or Thursday next week. I haven't really structured them yet. So these are going to be using primarily the back of your note card for 6-1 and then the front for 6-2. So go ahead and click on it. I want to make sure it activates because you're my first class. All right. Are you allowed to get in? Just making sure. Are you able to start a new attempt? Yes, perfect. Sometimes when I transfer them from one year to like different folders, they deactivate or I forget to hit something. I don't know what it is. All right, so here's your options. You can do it by yourself. It's always, if you're like, I just like to work on my own and get it done, that's fine. You can work with one other person. If so, I'll move you by them. If you want to get it all right the first time and you're a little foggy on those formulas, you can go to the testing room and Miss Monroe will talk through each one slowly, right? So it'll take you a little longer to do quiz 6-1, but you'll all ace it the first time. Does that make sense? So you're going to decide. Who wants to work with a partner? Because if so, I'll move you by them. All right, I'm going to actually stop recording here.